why are you so engaged in these topics?
For me, it's a matter of principles, and it's a matter of faith. I think if you believe in democracy, there's no other way than to fight, for freedom when you see that freedom is at stake. Because there cannot be freedom without democracy, and there cannot be democracy without freedom. The two of them, they go hand to hand. And being born and raised in Romania under communism, I was 11 years old in 1989 when communism collapsed. I still remember how it is to live in a totalitarian regime. And from the position that I hold right now as an elected member of the European Parliament, I consider that it's my duty, political duty, civic duty, to take a stand when I saw that the rights, not only of the Romanians, but of all the Europeans, are at stake. So I took everything that I had at my disposal, all the procedural options in the parliament, all the civic options, participating to protests all across Europe, where I'm invited, like it happened now in Sweden, in Stockholm, on January 22nd. And it's a great honor for me to be here, and also it's a great joy for me to see that many people waking up and realizing what is happening and taking a public stand.
Are there more politicians than the ones who have come forward? Have you noticed any movement amongst your colleagues?
Well, there were about 160, if I'm not mistaken, MEPs, members of the European Parliament, who voted against the implementation of the green certificate. But each party, I would say, have its own way of showing opposition to this. My case and my group, I would say, the group that I'm part of, we decided to take a hard stand on this because there's a soft approach, I would say, and a tough approach. The soft approach was, let's negotiate. And my position was, well, negotiate what? Negotiate on the rights of people? I said, I don't have anything to give in exchange, it's, freedom, liberty, democracy. These are non-negotiable values, principles, matters of fact. So I said, I don't have anything to negotiate with anybody in regards to this. We might find other aspects, that we might negotiate, taxation, whatever, anything else. But when it's coming to fundamental rights, these are the rights of the people. These are not the rights that we granted to the people, in order for us to decide, using the majority rule principle that, let's strip away some of the rights and freedoms from the people. So from the beginning, I would say I had a tough position on this. I was one of the strongest voices, if not the strongest one, in the European Parliament opposing the green certificate from the beginning. But we've done it in the Parliament, during the plenary debates, during the committees debates, during whatever was, part of the internal process, I would say. Then we decided at the end to take it to the public. We had press conferences, we were more engaged online, and now we see that people are more and more open to this. They discover something that for us in the parliament, that's how business is done over there. Besides behind closed doors, not many MEPs know all the facts, despite that they decide how to vote on issues that are so important to so many Europeans. So I said, no, that's it, let's go public and let's expose everything that is happening.
You showed the Pfizer agreement in one of your press conferences, and it was all black. Have you had any anyone who have revealed the content of the contracts?
That was one of the contracts, actually, that particular one was signed with Moderna. But the one with Pfizer, it's exactly the same. It's even more pages are blacked out than the one with Moderna. And the way we came up to that was an interesting thing, because I asked around when they started implementing or forcing people to be vaccinated. I went around and I said, well, have you seen the contracts? And inside of the European Parliament, there's a committee called the Budgetary Control Committee. So we have the Budget Committee and the Budgetary Control Committee. These are two committees where the first one, the budget committee, is giving the money to the commission, and the budgetary control committee is checking how the money was spent. So I went to the budgetary control committee. It's called the CONT committee, CONT committee. And I asked some of the members over there, I said, have you seen the contracts? Well, I haven't seen them, but my colleagues said, okay, let's go and ask him or her. And when we went over there, the guy said, well, I thought that you saw them. And I was like, come on, guys. I said, you're telling me that you haven't seen the contract? Then how were you able to check if the money were properly spent? And then I went around and nobody actually saw the contracts, the full version of them. Then there was a lot of pressure from the media and from us to release the contracts. And you saw the commission release the redacted version. But we don't care about the redacted version. We care about the full content because we don't know what clauses are there, what kind of engagements and what kind of promises were made from both sides. And I read in one of the Brussels media outlets that even the redacted versions of those contracts were released after the companies agreed to release them in a redacted format. Because the European Commission, under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, agreed to a clause in the contract that no contracts will be released unless the other party, in other words, the companies, agree to release them. I mean, look, time out a little bit. This is absolutely insane. So, with our money, with our rights, one person in the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is playing with this like she's an autocrat. Democracy doesn't work that way. You have to have full transparency when you talk about democracy, because at the end of the day, we need to know what the hell is happening, and we don't know that yet. Not only us as MEPs, but you as regular citizens. So we are keep pushing for this, and we will not stop until these contracts are fully released. Now, I received a lot of messages from a lot of Europeans pointing me to different websites that disclose these contracts, the full version. Now, I don't know for a fact or for 100% sure if these are the actual contracts, because they were disclosed, using anonymous sources and stuff like that. I'm in a public position and I need to deal with official documents, not with leaked documents. The leaked documents that are good to start the investigation. But in order to have an official position on what it is in these contracts, we have to rely on official documents. And the problem is they're not released to the public, which is a problem in itself. And we have to keep fighting for this, pushing for this, to know exactly what is going on and to see what clauses are in these contracts. Maybe there's nothing. But can we trust the governments anymore?
Do you have any advice to give to people around Europe and around the world, and also for political movements like Mood, for example?
The only way to stop this madness right now that is happening in Euro country and all across Europe is to be civically involved, like it happened today with protests, petitioning the government, use all the democratic tools and methods that are disposable to you and use them at their maximum capacity. That is one way. And the other way is to be politically involved. The reason why we are in this mess is because good people and people who care, about other people and about the rights of others, said maybe down the road, well, I'm not going to get involved in politics because it's so ugly. And because of that, they allow these bad people to hold public offices and hold the power, hold so much power in Europe. So if you really care about your future, if you really care about your futures, the future of your kids, if you care about your rights, then you have to be involved, because at the end of the day, this is a political crisis because it was caused by politicians, and it has to be resolved by politicians. So if you have a party in Sweden, I cannot endorse any party, but if you have a party here that is fighting for this, keep doing what you're doing. And at the end of the day, more than likely, people will support you and they will join you, because we are in a position right now where we don't debate and we don't fight on ideological things like left and right. This is a fight between right and wrong. And clearly what the government is doing, what the European Commission is doing under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, is wrong for the people and is wrong for our countries.
So why do you think we are here now? What have caused this situation?
Well, multiple factors. First of all, the European Union, especially now under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, after 2 years and a half, we see the European Union shifting from democracy to tyranny. I mean, it's a transition that we are witnessing, right before our open eyes. On the other side, what she's trying to do is she's trying to copy the Chinese model of controlling the population. This is why we call it the Chinification of Europe. The social credit system, which is implemented, step by step, the European ID, the European wallet ID, the issue with the green certificate, conditioning the exercise of basic fundamental rights by whatever, things. These things have nothing to do with the European values. Europe was built on democracy, freedom, and liberty. You have these three components. If you take any of them out, then you don't have Europe anymore. You have Soviet Union. Even those in the USSR said that that's a democratic union. They use this word, I would say, but it doesn't mean that someone claims that it's democratic. It is actual democratic. You have to look at all the other aspects. What is the respect for their fundamental rights? How do they treat people and all that? So it's the same thing here. You see Ursula von der Leyen saying that she cares about democracy and rule of law. She doesn't give a damn about that, and we clearly see that, right? Because you cannot say that you are pro-democracy, but then you don't disclose the contracts. I give you an example, and you don't do many other things, that are in favor of people. So we are in this point right now, because for many years the politicians forgot that they are in those positions to serve people, not to abuse the people. But we are also in these positions because for many years, maybe for decades, people were not involved in everything that was related to civic engagement and political engagement. Look, we have Euro parliamentarian elections every 5 years. Between these 5 years, people said, well, I elected some dudes over there, 5 years from now, I might elect some others if they are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. So the problem now is for people to understand that they have so much power in their hands, and they are able and they should exercise that power in order to persuade their elected officials in the European Parliament or in the national parliaments, to do what is right for them. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, I will say, to call and invite everybody who will be watching this interview, to get in touch with their elected officials. The campaign that we ran in Romania that stopped the implementation of the green certificate was simple. We provided all the phone numbers, all the cell phone numbers of all the members of the European Parliament, senators and deputies. And we told the people, call them and tell them the following: if you vote for the green certificate, we will vote out of office not only you, but your party. So your party will not be able to win any other seats anywhere in the local government, county government, or central government. Then we start calling the mayors. Then we start calling the city council members. And it worked. Because in Romania, in the Romanian parliament, they were afraid to even put this up to vote. So this is the power to the people and of the people. We need to give this power back to the people, and the people have to understand that they have to exercise that power. Once they do that, this politics will shift.
What do you think about this reports from laboratories and doctors and other people who are saying that there's some magnetic materials or metal materials or some things in the vaccines that shouldn't be there? What do you think about it?
I read some of this and I saw some of the statements released or made by these experts. I'm not an expert in that field. I cannot comment if that's the situation or not. From the position that I'm holding right now as an elected official, my concern is everything related to human rights and legality of everything that is happening. I'm not saying that there are these kind of things in the vaccines or they are not. This is up to the experts. But even the fact that you have more and more people talking about this should raise enough concerns, to the citizens and to the elected officials. But my perspective, it's even simpler and less debatable. We are in a Europe that has certain values: freedom, democracy, respect for fundamental rights. And we have the Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the European Union, and one of the fundamental rights acknowledged as part of the EU law, not part of the national constitutions or national laws, the EU law, is the fact that every time when you are exposed, for example, to a medical treatment or a medical product, receiving that has to be done after a free and informed consent. So these are two cumulative conditions: free and informed consent. Look, if you think that there are certain things in these vaccines, but they might help you, who am I to say do not take them? But if you think that there is something in these vaccines that might harm you, I cannot force you or condition you or pressure you in any way to take something against your will and without an informed consent, because this is how democracy works. And this is the surprising part. Why are these doctors and why are these European bureaucrats coming to us as elected officials to pass laws to force medicines on people? Up to now, medicine was done by the doctors, right? You go to a doctor, the doctor is checking on you, doing all these tests, running all these tests, and if you qualify for a certain then the guy is prescribing the medicine for you. Why do they come to me to vote something? Because the law has to apply equally to everybody, right? Now, when you talk about any kind of medicines, you have the side effects after you take them, but you have also certain, I would say, conditions or restrictions before you give that med. Even when you read the prospect, of these meds, it's not advisable, it's not recommended for ill people, for pregnant women, blah blah blah. You have all this, right? So who am I, and why are you putting me in a position to even vote for something that will force a medical product on people disregarding their medical condition? It's absurd. It was never done in the history except the Nazi regime, but it was never done in a democracy. We need to respect the choice of people and the professionalism of the doctors. Let them deal with this issue. We as elected members, we have to provide the people all the options that are available, for them, along with their doctors, to choose what is best for them.
How can we support you and your colleagues fighting for the freedom now?
The most important thing is for you guys to get in touch with your elected officials in the European Parliament from your country or from the countries of anybody else who's watching us, not only from Sweden, and tell them, vote only for what is good for us, not what is harming us or putting us at risk. Every time when there's a risk, there has to be an option, because we are not gods here to play, with people's lives, putting them at risk or in danger, just because we want so, that's not how democracy works. This is specific to tyrannical regimes, not to democracies. So the best way to do it is to get in touch with the elected officials, call them, contact them, request, private meetings with them, but on record meetings, telling them, do not vote for the green certificate. Do not vote for mandatory vaccination or for anything that is conditioning for someone to be vaccinated. It's simple as that. At the end of the day, it's up to the people to decide, and we should respect that they are wise enough, to make such an important decision for them.
Yeah, another question. How do you think about this censorship that we are facing now? I mean, all over. Critical voices are being silenced. They've been turned off from Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. How can we combat that, and what do you think that's a symptom of? We can combat that by using other platforms, and I see that there are more and more platforms, that are competitive, of Facebook, of YouTube, of Twitter, or whatever, where we can put our content over there. And what's the symptom of tyranny? So every time when a tyranny, look in the history, every time when a tyrannical system was implemented in any country, the first thing that they've done, they became less transparent, because that's how it works. They try to
to be less transparent, so the regular public will not know what is going on. But the immediate second thing is freedom of the media, affecting or controlling the media. That's how it was done by the Nazis. This is how it was done by the communists and by all these totalitarian regimes around the world. Because now you have the regular citizen. Imagine they are a regular citizen, you know, you go to work, you work for 8 hours, you have to wake up in the morning, you have to take your kid to school, you have few hours before you go to work, you stay 8 or 9 hours to work, you come back, it's late, right? What do? You turn on your TV, or maybe you read some newspapers or and then you go to sleep. You don't have time during the day to also see what the hell is my government doing. That should be the job of the media, right? But if there's no transparency and the journalists are not fair, then the people will not know what is happening. This is very well designed, you know. So the solution to this is to use other platforms, but also to help as many people, you know, to dedicate from their time, from their money, you know, to donate to these journalists that are doing an outstanding job trying to dig up for the truth. And nevertheless, you know, people should organize in NGOs, you know, and become watchdogs and see exactly what the governments are doing. We are doing this already in Romania, you know. So we fight this battle from two angles, you know, political and civil, because there are certain things that only an NGO can do, you know, and there are certain things that only a political party can do. So it's important to understand this dynamic in order to properly use it, in order to help your people.
How do you think this will end?
Hard for me to say. What I can tell you for a fact is the following. I will do everything in my power to end as soon as possible and to restore freedom and democracy. And this is how we should think. We should never think or look at this from the perspective, oh, how this might end. Because then you have this, well, what about if you're not winning? Well, if you're not winning, I'm gonna give up. That's not how it works. You know, fighting for freedom, fighting for democracy, fighting for liberty, fighting for rights, this is a continuous fight. The former US President Ronald Reagan said, freedom is one generation away from extinction. So it's the job, the duty, the call, the vocation of every generation to fight for the freedom that they already received in order to preserve that and even get more freedom for the generations that will be coming after them. So it's I never look at a situation like this, how this might end. You know, what I know for a fact is I'm gonna fight with all my power to end well, in other words, for democracy and for freedom to prevail.
Great.